Here we're going to talk about line graphs, bar graphs, and applications. Objectives for this lesson include the following. We're going to graph and plot ordered pairs of numbers. We're going to discuss what an ordered pair means. We're also going to determine the coordinates of the point in the plane. Then we're going to read and interpret ordered pairs. And then finally, we're going to read and interpret ordered pairs on a bar graph. Then we're going to find a quadrant in which a point lies. And then from there we're going to give a chart, given a chart or ordered pairs, create the corresponding line graph. So to get started, let's see an example. Here we have a chart of a hurricane that we're trying to track off the Gulf of Mexico, shown here. And you can see that looking at sampling at various points in this map, gathering from aircraft data, we can track where or predict where that hurricane will hit in the Gulf of Mexico. So this is an example. In this case, we have a hurricane hurricane's eye is located 90 degrees longitude and 25 degrees latitude. So here what we have is 90 degrees longitude and then 25 latitude. Okay, so that's the tracking of the hurricane eye, and we can use these as we track this hurricane. We can see how it can be used to predict where the hurricane will hit, and in this case it's someplace off the coast of Mexico. The 90 degrees longitude and the 25 degrees latitude can be formed as ordered pair shown here. And these are also called coordinates. And that should get us started to when we talk about graph points on a Cartesian plane and examine these points as it relates to linear equations. The Cartesian coordinate system is also known as the rectangular coordinate system. We have a number line with a zero reference. We have the positive integers in the x-axis and negative integers on the x-axis as well. We can form another number line here vertically to form the y-axis. So here the horizontal line represents the x-axis and the vertical line represents the y-axis. You can see also on the y-axis we have positive integers as well as negative integers. So here we have x and y. The first number in this ordered pair, shown here enclosed in parentheses, the first number is called the x-coordinate, and then the second number or variable shown here is the y-coordinate. The x-coordinate describes the left or right position with respect to the origin, while the y-coordinate represents the up and down. So let's look at an example to see how this works. So here we went 2 steps in the x direction, positive x direction, or 2 steps to the right, and 3 steps up. And to locate this point on this xy coordinate system, or this rectangular coordinate system, we call this point P 2, 3. Here's another point where we go in the negative direction. We go to the left 2 steps. Remember, this negative number can be interpreted as opposite direction, where we have opposite with respect to this origin, and then we go up 1. So this point Q is described as with the x-coordinate having -2 and a y-coordinate of 1. Here's another one. We went 3 steps to the right on the x-axis and 2 steps down on the y-axis. So this coordinate point R is known as 3 with the x-coordinate and -2 with the y-coordinate. And so that's how we describe points on this Cartesian or rectangular system. So let's go through a couple more examples of how we can plot a point in this Cartesian coordinate system, which is also called a rectangular coordinate system. This point here, we'll call it point A, has a point located at 4 and 1. Again, this represents the x-coordinate, this represents the y-coordinate. What about this point B? This is located at -3 and +2. This point is located at -2 with the x-coordinate and -4 with the y-coordinate, shown here. Point D is located at +3 x-coordinate with a -2 y-coordinate, or 3 - 2. Here we have a point located on the x-axis, and this point is located at 3, 0. 3 is the x-coordinate, and the y-coordinate of this point E is 0. And then finally we have a point F where we have no x-coordinate or 0 x-coordinate and a y-coordinate of 3. In other words, point F is located at 0, 3. So hopefully these examples illustrates how we use and plot points on this Cartesian or rectangular coordinate system. So let's look at an example of how we read and interpret line graphs. Shown here on this horizontal axis, which we referred to as the x-axis before, is the quantity purchased of some product, and on the vertical axis is the total revenues that we earned from this product. So here, let's locate a point. We're going at on the x-axis, or quantity produced of 300, and shown here with a quantity produced at 300, we have a total revenue of $900. Hence this point we can call 300 as the x-coordinate and 900 as the y-coordinate. So this is how you interpret and read graphs, in this case a line graph. Here's an example of a bar graph. Here we denote the year, and here we denote the score. And we can think of this as a score of 100 points, and where it's color-coded for different parts, let's say an exam. So you can see here is an example of a bar graph with respect to the year as a function of the year. Again, we can denote these three different colors as different parts of an exam. So here we're going to talk about quadrants. We're going to go through these points we discussed earlier. A is located at 4, 1, again the x-coordinate and the y-coordinate respectively. Here's -3 and 2 for point B. For point C we have -2 and -4. For point D we have -2 and 3. Point E we have 3 and 0. And then point F, we see it's 0 and 3. By definition, this is called quadrant 1. This is called quadrant 2. Then quadrant 3. And finally quadrant 4. And we note by looking at the points here that the x and y coordinates are positive when we look at the sign of the coordinates x and y. So here again, quadrant 1 has an x-coordinate that's positive and a y-coordinate that's positive. Likewise, in quadrant 2, we have the x-coordinate to be negative and the y-coordinate to be positive. For quadrant 3, both the x and y are negative, shown here. And then in quadrant 4, we have positive x-coordinate and a negative y-coordinate. Okay, again, a positive x and a negative y. And you can see it correlates here with the points that we plotted in the various quadrants shown in this diagram.